The first cock crowed as darkness still covered the village of Agwili. Nnedi was already awake. She never needed an alarm to rise. The chirping of crickets, the rustle of wind through the bamboo trees, and the distant call of early traders were enough to stir her from sleep. Her small hut stood at the edge of the village where tall grass met the forest. The walls were made of mud and rusted roof. Inside, the air was cold and smelled of herbs hung from the wooden beams. Nnedi tied her faded wrapper tightly around her chest, picked up her wooden baskets, and stepped outside into the cool morning breeze. Her bare feet made soft prints in the wet sand as she made her way into the forest. This was her daily routine. Every morning before the sun rose, she went to gather herbs used to treat tooth pain. Though she was not a trained doctor, the villagers trusted her. She had cured many with her herbal mixtures, passed down from generation of her grandmother. Nnedi did not make much money from it, but she always had enough to buy garri, firewood, and sometimes soap. As she reached a familiar spot near the stream, she bent to pick leaves, whispered to herself, "This one will help with swelling. This one for gum pain." She walked quickly and carefully. There was something peaceful about the forest, only the sound of waters, birds, and leaves brushing each other. By the time the sun stretched its first ray across the sky, her basket was full. She turned back towards home, thinking of Nneoma and Eze. Back at home, Nnedi placed the basket at the quiet spot in the compound. The small compound was quiet. A rusted pot sat on the fire in front of the hut as Nnedi prepared breakfast for her children. Then, two figures stood in front outside the house. Nneoma, a beautiful girl with smooth dark skin, and her younger brother Eze, a small boy with a shy smile. "Good morning, Mama," they both greeted. "It is morning. Don't you have class today?" Nneoma stared. "Yes, Mama." Her eyes were still heavy with sleep. "Eze, go and take your bath and dress up," Nnedi said more firmly. "You will be late for school." She looked at both of them with deep affection. Though Nneoma and Eze was her late brother's children, she had raised them like her own since her parents died in a fire many years ago. Nnedi had nothing when they came into her care, but she promised herself she would raise them well. Breakfast was always simple, pap with little sugar, or sometimes none at all. They ate quietly, grateful they had something to eat. Years passed, and Nneoma had become a young lady. She was already in the university, while Eze was in secondary school. "Mama, I will come back early today," Nneoma said. "All right, my child, be careful on the road." As they left, Nnedi sat on a low stool and began grinding herbs with a wooden pestle. Her bones ached, but her heart was content. She had given everything to see them grow. Nneoma's dream had always been clear. She wanted a better life, one free from struggle. In school, she worked hard, always reading late into the night with the help of borrowed candles. Her classmates often mocked her worn clothes and rubber slippers, but Nneoma didn't care. She knew where she was going. During one holiday, she sat outside the hut talking with Nnedi. "Mama, when I finish university, I will work in a big company, wear fine clothes, and live in the city. I will take you and Eze away from here." Nnedi smiled, her eyes shining with hope. "My daughter, that's all I pray for. Just don't forget where you come from." Nneoma nodded, but something deep inside her already wished to erase her past. Money was always tight. Nnedi once sold her cooking pots to pay Nneoma's school fees. She even worked late into the night, treating patients to raise money. Still, she never complained. Eze often followed Nnedi to the bush. He learned how to identify herbs and mix them, but his heart was not in herbal medicine. He wanted to become an engineer. Together, They were a small but determined, happy family. University life opened a new world for Unoma. Her classmates came from wealthy homes, carried expensive phones, and wore designers' clothes. Unoma felt out of place. She kept her head down and focused on her books, but she started telling people that her parents died rich and she was raised by a distant aunt and that she was from a rich home. She never mentioned the small hut or the herbalist's mother. She got a part-time job as a secretary at a local office to support herself in school. During holiday, she rarely went home. When she did, she stayed only for a few days. Mama, I have work. I have a lot of work, she would say. Nady never complained. She only held her hands and prayed for her success. Eze, now growing taller, would show Nady his schoolwork, and though Nady did not understand, she will simply smile proudly. Eze, I know you will make me proud someday. One day, Unoma whispered to herself, I will never come back to this village. Oh. I am just tired of it. Her graduation was a bright and sunny day. Unoma wore a second-hand gown and a cap. Her name was called, and she walked across the stage with tears in her eyes. After the ceremony, her friends posed for pictures with their families. Unoma looked around. She was alone. Nedy could not afford the trip. Still, her heart felt full. She had made it far and graduated from the university. Fortunately for Unoma, she got a job after her national youth service, a decent position at a company branch in the city. The pay wasn't much, but it was enough. She called home once and promised to help Eze with his school fees. Then, weeks passed with no words. She never called again. Nnedi waited patiently. Eze asked every day, where is Auntie Norma? Has Norma sent anything yet? Soon, Nnedi would say, she's just settling in. But deep down, she was really worried. One bright Monday morning, the staff of the company where Norma worked buzzed with excitement. The CEO, Mr. Eric Okafor, was coming from Lagos to inspect the branch. Eric was a tall, charming man in his early 40s, known for being strict but kind. He noticed Unoma immediately. Her beauty, calm confidence, and neat work caught his attention. After the inspection, he walked up to her. What's your name? Unoma, sir, she answered. Good work, Miss Unoma. Keep it up. From that day, Eric started visiting more often. He would ask for her specifically and often sat with her for long conversations. Soon, he asked her out. Unoma, though surprised, agreed. Maybe my dreams is finally coming true, she told herself. They began dating secretly. Eric was rich, handsome, and treated her with respect. He bought her gifts, paid attention to her dreams. One evening, during dinner at a fancy restaurant, Eric brought out a small box. Inside was a gold ring. Unoma, will you marry me? She gasped, her hands trembling. Yes, Eric, yes. The wedding preparation began quickly. Unoma was given a car, an apartment, and everything she once dreamt of. Eric asked about her family. She immediately bursted into tears. I lost my parents when I was little. I was raised by a kind aunt who lived in a village. She did what she could, but I took care of myself all along. I struggled so hard to become the woman I am today. Should we invite her for the wedding? Eric said. No, she's very old and sick. I will visit her later. The lie rolled off her tongue so easily. Back in the village, Nnedi waited for an invitation when she heard that Unoma was getting married. Eze's exam fees were due and they hoped the wedding would bring blessing to them. But there was no word. Meanwhile, back in the village, the sun beat down on Nnedi's roof as she found herself with a piece of cardboard. Eze sat beside her, sweat trickling down his forehead. Mama, the deadline is in 3 days. Has she said anything? He said softly. His eyes looked tired, but there was still a spark of hope. Nnedi sighed and looked at the small clay pot where she kept her savings. She opened it and poured the coins into her hands. They barely made enough for one day's meal. Not to mention Eze's exam fees. She will come through. Unoma will help us, she said, though her voice lacked strength. Eze said nothing. He stood and walked out, his shoulders sagging. Nnedi looked at the sky. God, you know I did everything for that girl. Please touch her heart. The wedding day arrived. The Okafor's mansion was decorated with flowers, golden drapes, and sparkling lights. Guests drove in with expensive cars. Photographer buzzed around, capturing every details. Unoma wore a flowing white gown that shimmered with every step. Her makeup was flawless, and her smile shone like the morning sun. Eric stood tall beside her, handsome in his designer suit. This is the life I deserve, she thought, taking a sip of her wine. Everything was perfect. Laughter echoed, music played, and waiters served food that smelled like heaven. Far away in the village, Nnedi stirred the pot of yam porridge. There was no meat, no fish, only pepper and palm oil. Eze sat outside, his head buried in a book. Mama, should I just forget about the exam? He asked. No, we'll find a way, even if I had to sell my last wrapper, she replied. And then she stood up suddenly. I will go to her. I will go to Unoma. Nnedi left the next morning. Her wrapper was clean but faded. She tied her scarf, took a plastic bag with dry bitter leaves to sell on the way, and headed for the city. It took hours. She asked for direction from passers-by, walked long distances, asking strangers for direction, until she finally got someone who knew the Okafor's mansion. And finally, after a long walk, she arrived at the gate of the Okafor's mansion. The tall security man looked at her with suspicion. Who are you looking for? I want to see Unoma, she said, smiling. I'm her mother. He frowned. Madam Unoma, you? She nodded. Please, tell her Nnedi is here. The man laughed. Wait here. He left and returned minutes later. She says she doesn't know you. Leave now before you embarrass yourself. Just then, Eric walked out to check on something in the compound. He spotted the commotion and approached. What's going on? He asked. This old woman says she knows your wife, the guard said. Eric turned to Nnedi. Good afternoon, ma. What's your name? Nnedi. I raised Unoma. I just came to see her. Eric smiled calmly. Let her in. The guard moved aside. Nnedi stepped in, her heart pounding with relief. Inside the mansion, everything sparkled. Nnedi's eyes widened. She had never seen so much wealth in her life. She spotted Unoma, dressed beautifully and laughing with gusts. My daughter, she called, smiling and waving. Unoma froze. Her eyes met Nnedi's and her face turned pale. She rushed to her and whispered harshly, What are you doing here? Why didn't you stay in the village? I came to see you. Eze needs help with his exams fee. He had just 3 days left. Unoma glanced around. People were watching. She panicked. She didn't want to identify herself with this wretched woman standing close to her. Her guests were rich and wealthy. Then she did the unthinkable. Pointing at Nnedi, she shouted, Who let this witch in? Throw her out! Do you want her to destroy this party? She's a witch. Gabs echoed. Eric turned sharply. Unoma, who is she? Just some mad woman. I don't know her, she snapped, her voice trembling. Neddy stood frozen, her heart shattered. Guest whispered. Security grabbed her arms. Please, don't touch me, she said, tears falling. I will go. She walked out. Thank you for watching. Kindly stay tuned for the concluding part of this story. Like this video please and kindly share out this video to your loved ones. Subscribe to this channel if you're not already subscribed. Until I come your way again with the concluding part, for now from me it is bye.